Okay, so we're in the end game of our little Twitter plus Yahoo Finance bot building process, and where we got to. So I think we're on video number. Yeah, we're on video number 9 now. So where we got to on the last video was that we were able to get we actually were able to compute the index. Over here we got the index price, which was the weighted sum, and we were able to compute this index from this start price, this close price. We then made a weighting from the start price, from the close price relative to the start price, effectively as a ratio. So if the close price is the same as the start price, then the ratio will be 1 exactly, which is why these top one, which is why pretty much everything's 1, because we're going to start at 1. And the other extra bit that I had in there was that the 2-year treasury, I wasn't able to find it, but then I found a 2-year treasury. So I think I included that in the last video. So everything's kind of like over here. This is what I'm sort of like talking about over here. And also if I'll make that a little bit wider. Yeah, our index, these are our values. And we got this. We didn't do the average of this, but in fact, we created an extra column here, which would have been our weighted average. So we haven't shown that explicitly, but I guess we can understand that we've got it. But I wonder if it if it went into the Jupyter variables, because df here is now a 6x5. Let's just see. We can launch it in the Jupyter variables. So I'll pull this to the side and just hit df over here. I don't know if it will or won't go in, what comes out of it. No, it doesn't come out of it, and that's because if we scroll down to the bottom, we should get the price index weight. Oh, we're returning that. Maybe if we rerun everything, I guess we should get it. Or index, no, that's index price. We get df here from the Yahoo chat actually. So I'll just do a full rerun. So, the reason why is actually if I've got to do it like this, control and run like that. I'm just wondering if that will work, because that takes in all of that. I just wonder if the df works on this now. Df, because I need to put everything into 1 as opposed to breaking it down. So I'll just df and then return. Let's see what comes back. We've got the price index bit there. No. Okay, so we've got to recompute the whole thing, which is basically computing everything in one go, because these are all segregated out. Otherwise we won't get to, because we're just running blocks of code otherwise. So if we do want to get it into the Jupyter variables part of it, which is it's sort of like nice to have as well, I'm kind of like ready, I guess, to do this. So let's do it. So like save it to the last moment. This is the if name equals main guard. So we want to sort of like run everything all in one go now. This is all going to run as one block of code. So there we go. We run everything, and now presumably if I do df, it'll also be in the Jupyter variables, but if we do df, no, I still only get the price index. Interesting. Data frame, let's close that one down. Data viewer, let's close that one down. Because we have made an extra column in here, the df price index weight. So I was expecting to see an extra column here, because we're returning the data frame. So I was expecting to see that being updated with one extra thing, which is the product of the weight times the price index. So why is that not happening? DF, and that was just for, just for us to see. DF price index weight. Right. Just wonder if I do a print here of print, not price close, print DF. There we go. And just like run that as well. That's printing the whole data frame. It does come in there. Okay. So there it is. It should have gone into the variable, so which is the funny thing. Maybe I have to do a full refresh of the variables in some way. So like a restart that. I don't know if that will do it. Restarting the kernel. There we go. Everything's fresh, because I shouldn't have to do a print and then a run of the entire block of code. So the tweepy is being done. All the data is being pulled in. We've actually printed the data. The reason why is this isn't going into the, because I guess it's because it belongs into a function. We've returned the data frame here. So if we wanted to get that out, okay, fine. It's fine. We can see that it's there. Basically, if we wanted to now get it out into our Jupyter variables, this one's running over the line end, but it's fine because we can see that this here, this price index here, this is the top one. It's all like just carrying over there. That's all, because we still got the GSPX. So the variable, the Jupyter variables is just a little bit cleaner and nicer, basically. So that goes into there. So I'll hit the bin to delete those, move that away, and go back. So we do get everything. It would have been nice to have it that way, but now we're kind of like working as full Python code. So we haven't. I've taken out the percentage signs. I could put them back in. I've taken all the percentage signs out, so we're not running it like modularized anymore. So whenever we run anything now, it's going to be sort of like down the bottom. But in a way, we don't need to see all of this stuff. Our job is done, and that's kind of like, I guess, sort of like the beauty of the interactive Python and also the Jupyter Notebook, which is when it comes to prototyping and you sort of like want to see your data, you don't have to run this piece of Python code with a debugger and sort of like, debug it and pull out your stuff, but you can actually see the variables come out and you can sort of like inspect it and rationalize it. And if you have like a blatant mistake, well, I had a blatant mistake in the last video where like I spotted it within 2 seconds, but you could sort of like see like where it's from, but like, I could then break it down and get the thing. Whereas when you do it in a Python code, you have to sort of like go conceptually and do it. So anyway, I think I'll close this because we're done with that. And our task now was to basically, in our main module, which is up here, is we want to compute, or we have done, we've got the Yahoo index data as a data frame. We're able to compute the index price, and here we were even able to select print that out to ourselves. Now we don't massively care if we print it out to ourselves or not. So here we've got, I won't even put it there. I mean, we don't even need to comment it because we've got well commented code. We see what we've got, but we want to do all of this block of code now before all of this block of code, because we want to have the data. We want to have this data frame, but in particular, we want to have this index price, what we've calculated as the index price. In fact, we want to have the rounded version of the index price ultimately. So we might not do our rounding even here. We probably want to, because rounding to 4 decimal places is more than sufficient. So I might even, for the purpose of publishing, do a round over here and comma 4 over here. So we don't even have to do our rounding over here now. So I'll hit delete on that. I'm just wondering why that said 0.169 weighted average index price. That was the one that was blindingly obvious. I think that was the example that we did yesterday. So I was up till 2 a.m. doing it. So let's just put that one in, just the index price now. And that's already going to be pre-rounded for us because we've done it in the line up here. So if we do hit an F5 to run the entire piece of code, we've got the index price 0.999 over there, and that's more than sufficient to feed in. So all we have to do now is move this into the right order. We were able to get the tweets. Funnily enough, like, you know, when I started this video session in the beginning, I called it like a Twitter bot, which is a Twitter bot, but it used as much Yahoo Finance knowledge, should we say, or like it used a decent amount of Yahoo Finance know-how to get that one in it. I think it's Alt that moves it down. So at least about 25% of this was really actually Yahoo Finance and calculating an index price from the actual components that we fed in. So we've now, this is the main body of the code. We don't need a function to compute the average index price, because basically we're just going to compute the weighted average. The weighted index average price. There we go. So we've done that step, and we've printed this out, but we won't even really need to print it out, but we've printed it out anyway. So that I guess when we're running our script, that, you know, we can sort of like see once every hour or whatever that the index price comes in, and we might put a timestamp on it as well. In fact, I guess because we've got the datetime module in there, I always forget how to do the timestamp thing. It's a 2-second thing. Something like, we do have the timestamp that's fed through somewhere as well, because we had it from the request that came back. Although that was the last time and not the actual current system time. So I'm gonna, because I'm far too lazy to look it up. I've done this 100 times, but I shall revert to getting the date time in. I'm just going to use ChatGPT, because Control R. I'll do a get date time. So get current date and time. I should just copy it from another piece of code that got format in Python. Right, it's going to do like a whole bunch of stuff, which I sort of like have some of it, but I only want the important bit, which is, and that's the bit that I want, this datetime.tatetime.now and this strf time bit, because otherwise it'll be a real annoying thing to, and it gives us this is what I wanted. I like this format, it's useful. And I always forget the percentage MD, whatever, if it's capital M and not, and so forth. And so it's easier just to do that. Just to feed that in, basically over here. And again, the copy and paste is ugly in if that this indenting thing. There we go. We don't need the current date and time is like that. But what we want is the time now, and then a now string. So a now as a string, because, and that is just going to be the now of that. It's the strf time of all of the line above, basically. So I could stick everything. We could put the strf time bit here. Maybe I will. It's a one-liner. So just do a copy there and a paste. Dot. Yeah, it does do it. It does permit it. Okay, there we go. So it's all on one line, and I'm going to call it now string. So this should work. Just a little added bit for ourselves, just to see when it's run. The weighted index price is, and that at time colon, and then now string. There we go. So it looks quite nice. We don't need this part, I don't think either, so get rid of it. If it doesn't work, I can just go back to this code in ChatGPT and re-modify it. And effectively, I think the word that was once used 20 years ago when I was dealing with all this stuff is like you get your code and then bastardize it, which is just basically amend all of the bits that you need until it works. So I'm just going to hit a run, and we should get the index price and then the time that effectively the time that we've run it. So that's quite nice because we have got that. It's down here at the bottom. So I guess I wonder on here because I can't see what I'm actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's all down there at the bottom over here. So the weighted index price is that, and this is the time that it's come in. So that's quite good because when we actually run our script, we might want to see that, and we might also want to pass that into our Twitter. So that now string could be quite useful. In fact, I think we will pass it into our Twitter. We have partly, in fact, our Twitter code incorporates that. So I've just double coded. So we're not going to run the get public tweets. We'll just leave that one commented out. But we are going to make a tweet now. Now, the thing about making this tweet, and we can print our success code, that's fine because we're just logging to the console. The thing about making this tweet at the moment was that it just takes in the API key, which is our, the result of the authentication into Twitter, so that we can talk to Twitter and use Twitter via its API. But what we need to feed in here, I guess, are these two parameters, or at least one of them, because the other one, we've got this now string anyway. In our Twitter code, we were already computing, I think. I wonder if we did have it. So we are going to do make a tweet. This is quite nice in the notebook, which is you can right click and go to definition. You can hit F12. So this is the actual piece of code that runs. And in here, you see we've already used this date time thing. And that's what I'm saying about the formatting. I wonder actually, because I didn't edit the format. Now, the reason why I didn't edit the format is because, well, I guess I could. Basically, if we were doing like many tweets, we're not, then Twitter wouldn't let us do many tweets. And I tend to use this for like trading. And if you did like lots of trades and you wanted to tweet them all out, if you did many trades at the same price, kind of like within a certain time frame, if you didn't have something unique, and I guess this is the thing, is if the index never changed, so that it's more applicable to that. If the index never changed, then the tweets would look identical. So you need something that's unique, like some randomization. And I did start, like, you could put a random number, which, you could use your random module. So import random, which we haven't used. But it's far more useful for us to have a timestamp, which is also completely unique. It'll always be unique because the time always increases. We don't go back in time, unfortunately, yet. So it's kind of, it's helpful to have it in. So we already had that in there, so we won't need to be passing this now string in there. But we still got it. So when we come to we can still use it outside outside of our tweet code, because we might want it in the console just to see that it's running, basically. So it's still got a use case. I haven't totally done. But we'll go to this make tweet API. But what we need to now do is amend it, because we want to pass in this index price. So we're not going to pass in a now string, but we want the index price to come in. And the index price, we could pass in a whole data frame and then do the computation inside. But let's not do that. Make a tweet, and we're just going to have something like, I guess, a tweet string in the make a tweet. So we'll just have a little think about that. We'll go to the definition again, and here we've got this. This is one of our args, and the second argument now, so we're going to put in another argument, is going to be sort of like, we can either do the tweet string or we can do the number, right, and append our tweet string in some way. So, and here's what we're actually printing at the moment, which is not very much, just a Python test. So that this is actually what goes in. So this is our tweet string. I'm just wondering which way do we want to do it? Do we want to get the tweet string going in, or do we want to formulate the tweet string inside of our method? So if we're just computing an index, we will just, we'll just pass in a index. We'll just pass in an index. We'll call it the index 6040. It's not even a 6040 index. I don't want to use just the word index, just because I'm sure that that's a Python keyword. I'm not even going to look it up. Like, I just want to call it index something. Index price, that's what we'll use. There we go. So we'll call it the index price, right? Which is, it's better to use long variables that are descriptive in a way that aren't too long. But because we're going to describe it anyway, but if it's too long, then our lines just get too long, and then you can't do any mathematics. So index price, and it's going to be a float. So we're going to type into the user that it's a float, and at least this is our first attempt at this. So here, one of our arguments, I'm going to take that down there, just so that I get it right. Index price, and it's of type float. I see different variants of how the doc string is. I tend to use the brackets here for the type, but I've seen on other ones where it's a colon, whatever the type is, and then another colon, and then the rest of it. Swings and roundabouts. It's just something that will be descriptive here. So we see that we get an index price, and we see that it's a float there. And I wonder why the API came in, is because that should have been like a tweet API, because we've type hinted for the right thing. But anyway, float, and what is it going to be? It's going to be the index to go into the tweet. So we're not tweeting out a string per se, we're going to formulate the string here. So we're going to make something inside of here, which is, to make a tweet, is a tweet string, or twit string. There we go. Equals. And we might be doing, I don't know yet, but something like, it might be a little block of stuff. So again, this is where the testing bit comes in, because I can't even remember, but I have to probably, it either wraps it, we could, maybe carriage returns will work, so we'll have a little tester of this to see what happens. As in, if we put a carriage return here and then continue writing, like, how does that string, how does that work? Or do we put the tweets just inside the quotations? And I probably could copy it off of the documentation, but this will be some kind of block of code that's over here, and that will sort of like be our first line, and then this would be the rest of it. So tweet string is that, or we could keep appending the string. I don't know which one's better yet. So yeah, I guess I just have to do a test on it. I'm sure that there's a way and I can look it up. I'm not even going to bother looking it up just because it should be okay. So tweet string, we're not going to use a tweet string yet, but all we're going to do is get like the index price in there, which we've pulled in. We're going to try and do a tweet with this in here. So instead of calling it Python test now, we can still keep the Python test in. N is the date time. Yeah, you know what? Well, we'll remove that. So the index price. So the index price is, and then whatever the index price is, so which is, we fed that in now, index price and index price. So we feed that in, and then this is an F string at the moment. I could make the F string like this. I wonder, we'll make this whole thing like the formatted literal string, and we'll put all of this into the string here. So we'll take all of that because it's the same thing. It's just cleaner doing it like this now because we're at the end game of it. So something like that, and here we're just going to pass in, because it's just nicer looking, a tweet string. So we're hoping that this works, that we're going to at least get an index price and then sort of like a timestamp. A timestamp like that. I don't know if it's going to go on multiple lines yet or not, or how this looks, or even if, because I've pressed return here, if the first line is gone. So maybe index price needed to be kind of like over here, and then the timestamp needed to be sort of like tabbed in. I don't know how that works. That's the bit that I'm going to need to play around with. I could, let's, no idea. So we'll just leave it at this for now. Literally don't know what's going to come in on the tweet, and we're going to do it by inspection. And if I get Twitter up, I could just run this code. Let's just see what happens. We should, all we're going to do is get a weighted index price. We will actually get, I think as well, a dictionary that comes back, because we're printing that in this string. We're going to get this done thing that comes back. We may or may not want it, but that's what we're going to see that comes back in here, because they're the things that runs. So, and that's going to come back after we've computed the price. So I think that's really it, resdic. So we're going to get the result of the, we're actually feeding this back, so we don't necessarily need to even print. And we're going to get the timestamp coming back twice, basically. I'm going to hit F5. We can eliminate one of them. So there we go. We have an error message. Ah, yes, of course. One missing argument, missing one argument, required position argument, the index price. That's the sort of thing that happens. So we're going to hit stop over there, and we need to put the index price in over here. We'll just do that again, because now we've got two arguments that come in our TweetPy, our make a tweet, not TweetPy, our make a tweet method or function. It's a function still, and the second argument now is this float. And also, I'm just wondering if, oh no, because it's in an F string, we don't have to worry about type converting floats to strings. So that should be fine. We'll have another F5 of it. We at least know that we've run this far, but we knew that we could do that anyway. So to make a tweet, that would create a problem. So F5 again. And hopefully, boom, boom. Yeah, we've got lots of things. Why have we got done twice? That's an interesting one because it was a done, and then we've got our weighted index price time. That is probably our tweet by the looks of it. No, that's our message, and then I wonder actually. Let's go on to Twitter. I just get public tweets. Let's just go down to this actual thing. We got our success code as well. So we got our success code. That's quite nice because it's like nice to get that at the end. We probably don't need the done anymore because we've returned our success code. So we'll get rid of the done. I'll just go this way as well. I'll just go back to go to definition. There we go. So done can be omitted from there. We are printing this dictionary just before the done. So created at. So we don't. I guess we don't need two of these. We can see that this is when the tweet was created. So this top one is when the index was computed, and the bottom one was when the tweet was created. And here's something that's a little bit, I'm not going to say annoying or different or whatever, but this is clearly using, because our time zones have changed, GMT +1 or whatever over here on the created at, and that's giving us an 8:30, whereas this is the actual time is our local time, where at least where I'm running it is 9:30. So if we did want to print this would be, well, we got created at, so I'll just put tweet created at, and then this is I think it's called the UTC time. So I'm sure that that's giving us back a UTC time and not a local time. So just to differentiate between the two. So if we did run this, but what I'll do before even running it, because this is just text, and it's not going to change anything there. All it would change is how our print statement looked down below here. And we again, like, we could have returned that over here, but we're not. We're just returning true. Is if I go to the tweets now, so I'm just pulling up Twitter over here. Click on that. Don't want to see all the other noise in Twitter, really. And just to see if we get it, there we go. So that was the tab that was put in. So we can kind of like do a little bit of editing on this, which is, I'm just going to shrink this a tiny bit to the side because we don't. One of the nice things about keeping to PEP is that you can fit things on screens. And actually, in the book that I wrote, it was the page of the width of the book. Like if I didn't use PEP, the lines would kind of like scroll over, and it's really horrendous reading like scrolled over lines of code. So keeping to the Python conventions is quite useful. I've just sort of like put this over here. Just move this one out of the way because we don't need that. I'll minimize it, in fact. Right, so that's over there. I think we can see the tweets. And the reason I'm just putting this to the side because when we went to the tweets, let's just scroll down to our tweet. That's the Yahoo data down below. The make a tweet bit, the the return over here didn't seem to make a difference, but the tab seemed to make a difference here. So it looks like if this was here and this was here, that it would be okay, as in everything's tabbed in one. Now, is that a big deal? Possibly yes or no. I don't know. I like this to be indented. That's a thing. So I'm just trying to think how I can get the indentation with that in there. So maybe someone could give me a little comment. What I might actually do though is, I wonder what happens with two tabs, like where that actually goes anyway. But I've put in an extra line because I guess we just want the timestamp somewhere. And I was just thinking maybe I'll put in a link or create a data frame and kind of like put in the picture of the component parts. So I might just run this as it is. We've got a timestamp in there. If I hit F5 again to run it all, F5, everything's going to run. It gets saved and then it gets run. And it in here, I guess, are we returning? Oh, that's we printed out. What did we print out there? Oh, that was our authentication. Okay, so we've basically re-authenticated. So again, we might that will come in the code. So we'll do that. Actually, there is some extra bit that we need to do. So we haven't finished, but we're close to being finished. Is that we need, once this is done, is to make the script run every like hour or something like that. In some way, we want to make this script run every hour. And there's two ways of doing it. You could kind of like set it up in Windows and have it automatically run in the what's it called? The scheduler, the task scheduler. So we're going to need to, I'll even put the little comment here because we're going to need to do it either, and it will be in our main code, it will be the task scheduler, or we would need to do a loop. So we're definitely going to need somewhere either, I'll just put the comment here, good place to put notes, task scheduler on Windows. In Chrome or Linux, it's cron, I think it's called, Windows, or alternatively, or a loop. Right, I'm a better fan of the loop thing and then just keeping it open, because then I don't have to have a Windows thing running. It swings and roundabouts, because if Windows restarts, this task scheduler one will just automatically kick in and do its job, and you never have to rerun the code. Whereas the loop one, it's got the advantage that it stays open and sort of like sits in the background operating. But if Windows restarted, the loop one, you'd sort of have to restart your process. Now you could put the loop to start one in the task scheduler and always have it sitting in the background. It's kind of swings and roundabouts, but we're going to need to do that in order to perform the final piece of this. And actually what I wanted to do was just, I guess, if I go back there and sort of like scroll over there, the breaking news is the most user. There we go. It's just a little bit cleaner. We've got this index price coming in. I might just remove that comma because some users might want to scrape that or see that. So let's just go down to the make a tweet. So go to definition and just get rid of that comma. We don't need it. We've got a nice sort of like clean F string. We didn't have to do it as an F, like so the F, we didn't need to do an F string. We could have just done string concatenation, or we could have just concatenated F strings. The F string part of it actually was quite convenient because we don't have to convert this into a string. We don't have to do the conversion of an integer into a string. It just kind of like fits in. So I don't know. It's just nice as just sticking in the F string, saves us a bit of labor. So yeah, that's everything. That's done. Not too bothered about this tab thing. In fact, I think it's kind of like quite convenient to have the tab. It didn't matter that we tabbed it twice, funnily enough. I might just keep it down there. It's still going to have the tabbing in it, but it's good. It's good enough for what we want. We've kind of like sufficed the criteria. So I think I'll probably stop the video here, just because enough's done. We're kind of like at 40 minutes, and the next part of it will be the consideration. This is what there is to look forward to. Is how do we run this? Do we do the task scheduler or do we do the loop? And I guess I should be asking, I forget to do this at the beginning of every video, but if you could follow and subscribe and click likes and share the video, because I haven't done it for the last 60 videos, apart from I did it on the last 2. Everyone else does it, so like in the middle, at the beginning of the videos, I feel like here's my little comment at the end, like subscribe, like, share, do all of that kind of stuff, because it's really, really helpful. Kind of want to keep the channel or keep this thing going if I can. And the only way of really keeping it going is with a decent amount of followers. Plus, I get like feedback's useful, so it'd be really useful to hear, you know, what you guys have to say, or comments or something. If I've done something wrong, if you can't read the writing, if it's too blurry, if the volume's too low, just let us know. So I think that's it. I'll sign off and see you all in the next video, which will hopefully be like the last video in the series of this Twitter and Yahoo Finance bot. So thank you.